tó ìran kejì sọ, ìran kẹta sọ, nígbà tá a kì í ṣe mùmú àgùntàn ni wọ́n sọ pé tí wọ́n bá lù á tún máa tún padà wá ẹ̀yà tún máa dàn kán nígi á tún máa padà wá kì í ṣàgùntàn. So a ti rí i pé àwọn pípù yìí wọn ò fẹ́ ṣàtúntò, gbogbo bá ṣe ń pariwo àtúntò wọn ò fẹ́ ṣe, wọ́n kàn ń dá wa lágun láni. So táwa dẹ̀ pariwo àtúntò títí tán ni wọn ò ní ṣe tó dẹ̀ jẹ́ pé àwọn gan wọ́n túbọ̀ múra sí láti máa gaba lé wa lórí ni, tí wọ́n fẹ́ sọ wá dẹrú wọn nílé àwọn bàbá tiwa, wọ́n fẹ́ sọ wá dẹrú. So gbogbo wa ọ̀rọ̀ pé bóyá a fẹ́ wá Nàìjíríà èèyàn láti tún rò, wọ́n Nàìjíríà yẹn kò pé wa ní bá ṣe wà kó tẹ̀ pé wa rárá ni. Ìyẹn ni àwa náà ṣe ń wu ìgbà táwọn ọ̀dọ́ sọ pé àwọn fẹ́ Oòduà Republic, ìyẹn làwọn ṣe lè sọ pé wọ́n ń sọ̀sọ̀kúsọ torí nǹkan táwọn pàpà ń sọ àgbàlagbà pàpà ń sòrò lọ́kàn, àwa náà ń sọ. Báwo tẹ̀ pariwo ẹ̀ bí a ò ṣe demonstration, bí a ò ṣe protest, nǹkan tí wọ́n ń sọ gan-an ló wà lọ́kàn àwa náà. Sẹ́nitọ̀ Fẹ́mi Okuromu láti Abẹ́òkúta, ìgbà tí mò ń ṣe sẹ́nitọ̀ èmi ni mò ń ṣe aṣojú Ogun Central ilẹ̀ Ẹ̀gbá. Mi ò bá àwọn tó ń bèrè ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tí wọ́n bèrè Oòduà Republic, mi ò lè bá wọn wí. Bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni mi ò lè bá àwọn tó ń bèrè ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, ìpínlẹ̀ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àtẹ̀gbà wípé ìṣọ̀kan ìlú Nàìjíríà. Ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo ìrírí tá a ti ń rí wọn ò fẹ́ wa ní Nàìjíríà. Gbogbo epo tó lágbára ní Nàìjíríà àwọn nìkan náà fẹ́ wà ń bẹ̀. Gbogbo àwọn ọ̀gá ológun ni o, ìbájọba àwọn ológun ti sọ́jà tó ń jà lórí ilẹ̀, ìbájẹ́ àwọn tó ń jà lórí omi, ìbájẹ́ àwọn tó ń jà lófurufú, ìbájẹ́ àwọn tí wọ́n ń ṣọ́bodè, ìbájẹ́ àwọn ọlọ́pàá, gbogbo ìbájẹ́ àwọn tí wọ́n ń gba owó nìkan náà fẹ́ kó wà ń bẹ̀, àwọn náà dẹ̀ wà ń bẹ̀. Ìyẹn nìkan tún kọ́, gbogbo ipò tí ò yẹ kí wọ́n wà tí wọ́n lẹ́tọ̀ọ́ sí láti wà, àwọn ni wọ́n fira wọn síbẹ̀, àwọn ni lọ́gàlọ́gà gbogbo iṣẹ́ ìjọba, àwọn ni lọ́gàlọ́gà ń bẹ̀. Bí ó tẹ̀ jẹ́ pé wọn ò mọ̀wé dédé tó àwọn tó kù, àwọn ni wọn ò kàwé, wọn ò fẹ́ lọ léèwé, ṣùgbọ́n bí wọn ṣe lọ léèwé tó, wọn báyìí tó bá ka tátàtà nu wọn, àwọn náà ló máa fi síbẹ̀ tó máa fi ṣọ̀gá lórí àwọn tó kàwé. Bẹ́ẹ̀ jọ fẹ́ wọ iléèwé tí wọ́n bá ṣe, wọ́n á mọ̀ wọn tí wọ́n ṣáájú ti yín, ìtògbà 10 nínú 100 yẹn wọ́n á mọ̀ ṣáájú ti yín. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ gba 80 nínú 100 àtọmọ wọn tó gba 10 tàbí 7 ẹjọ́ máa kàwé. Tẹ́ bá tún wá jáde iléèwé tó bá tì wọ́n jáde, àwọn náà tún máa kọ́kọ́ gbà síṣẹ́. Ìyá wọn tí ò mọ kankan yìí o, àwọn náà máa kọ́kọ́ gbà síṣẹ́ nìkan kọ́, àwọn náà máa fi ṣọ̀gá yín. So ẹ tún máa ṣe sà fún wọn ni pẹ̀lú gbogbo ìwé tẹ́ kà. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ gbà ló jẹ́ pé àwọn ọmọ tiwa gan tí wọ́n kàwé tí wọ́n fẹ́ ka pálí ẹ̀ mọ́, tán bá jáde tán ọdún 5 wọ́n lè máa gbé pálí káàkiri kán má ríṣẹ́. Àwọn ọmọ tiwọn tí ò mọ kankan kíákíá náà ti máa pèsè iṣẹ́ fún wọn. So gbogbo oríṣiríṣi ìrẹ́jẹ báyìí ló wà. Wọ́n tún wá ń pa àwọn èèyàn wa nísìnyí, wọ́n tún wá ń kó àwọn èèyàn wa, wọ́n ní wọn ò pọ̀ tó Nàìjíríà, wọ́n ń wábi tó máa fi ṣe ìlú tiwọn. Wọ́n wá ń kó àwọn èèyàn wọn wá láti ibi tó tẹ̀ kí í ṣe Nàìjíríà, Niger Republic, Mali, gbogbo Senegal, gbogbo ibi táwọn Fúlàní wà ni wọ́n ní kán máa bọ̀ Nàìjíríà, pé Ọlọ́run ti pé bíi ní ilẹ̀ Fúlàní, pé láti fi kí àwọn Fúlàní wá fi ṣe ilé. So láti fi sọ ibi ìdí ilẹ̀ Fúlàní, wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pa àwọn èèyàn tiwa. Ìyẹn náà ṣe ń pa àwọn darandaran tí wọn kì í gbébọn tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀, wọ́n ti kó bọn fún wọn, kó máa lé àwọn èèyàn wa kúrò lóko wọn, kó máa gbalẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ wọn, kó máa lé wọn kúrò lábúlé, kó máa gbalẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ wọn. Gbogbo àwọn igbó, gbogbo àwọn igbó ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tàbí ilẹ̀ Ìgbò ni wọ́n ti kó àwọn èèyàn wọn sí pẹ̀lú bọn láti máa kidnap àwọn èèyàn wa, kó máa pa wọ́n, kó máa fi wọn, kó máa béèrè ransom. Gbogbo ransom tó ń béèrè yẹn láti tún máa fi ra ammunition láti máa fi ra àbọ̀ni tó máa fi pa wá. So ìyẹn la wá rí i pé ó dàbí pé àwa gan la ń fẹ́ wọ́n Nàìjíríà, àwọn gan ò fẹ́ wọ́n Nàìjíríà. Wọ́n Nàìjíríà táwọn fẹ́ òní pé káwọn máa ṣe ìjọba lé wa lórí kan sọ wá dẹrú wọn, káwọn máa ṣọ̀gá, káwọn máa ṣẹrú. Ìrántí Ọlọ́run bá jẹ́ sọ pé kò ní ṣẹrú, ó yẹ kó mọ̀ pé Yorùbá ò ní ṣẹrú, Yorùbá ò fẹ́ ṣẹrú, Yorùbá ò ní ṣẹrú. Ìyẹn ni Yorùbá ayé láwọn ọmọ Yorùbá ṣe ń sọ pé àwọn kàkà kan máa ṣe ẹrú ní wọ́n Nàìjíríà, wọ́n kúkú ní orílẹ̀-èdè tiwọn tó máa ní òmìnira tiwọn. So ìyẹn ló fa ọ̀rọ̀ Oòduà Republic, kí gbogbo wa jẹ́ wọ́n Nàìjíríà là ń fẹ́. Ìgbà tá a lè rí i pé wọ́n Nàìjíríà yẹn kò ṣiṣẹ́ dáadáa, lábẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pariwo àtúntò káàtúntò lọ́nà tó máa fi mú àǹfààní bá gbogbo wa. Ẹ rántí pé ìgbà tá a máa gba òmìnira,
Yes.
ẹnì kankan kàkà kan máa ṣe ẹrú ní wọ́n Nàìjíríà, wọ́n kúkú ní orílẹ̀-èdè tiwọn tó máa ní òmìnira tiwọn. So ìyẹn ló fa ọ̀rọ̀ Oòduà Republic, kí gbogbo wa jẹ́ wọ́n Nàìjíríà là ń fẹ́. Ìgbà tá a lè rí i pé wọ́n Nàìjíríà yẹn kò ṣiṣẹ́ dáadáa, lábẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pariwo àtúntò káàtúntò lọ́nà tó máa fi mú àǹfààní bá gbogbo wa. Ẹ rántí pé ìgbà tá a máa gba òmìnira, Awólọ́wọ̀ jà fún federalism. Federalism yẹn ni wípé kí agbègbè kankan máa ṣèjọba tiẹ̀, ṣùgbọ́n ká ṣe wà gẹ́gẹ́ bí orílẹ̀-èdè kan. A jẹ́ ṣe ó dẹ̀ ṣiṣẹ́. Àwa Yorùbá a ní Western region pẹ̀lú àwọn Edo àti Delta. Àwọn Igbo wọn ní Eastern region. Àwọn tòkè Ọya wọn ní Northern region. Kálukú ń ṣe ìjọba tí a lè region tiẹ̀. Ìgbà tó yá a tún ní Midwest region. Kálukú ń ṣe ìjọba tiẹ̀. A jẹ́ ń gbé pọ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí wọ́n Nàìjíríà. Kò sí wàhálà. Kò sí pé bóyá àtẹ̀yẹ ń lọ sí Àbújá láti lọ gba owó láti lè ṣe ìjọba, tàbí pé ìjọba àpapọ̀ máa sọ pé rárá ọ̀nẹ́tọ̀ náà region òun ni wọ́n ń ṣe fún wa. Ìyẹn ni Awólọ́wọ̀ fi di ìyẹn ló fi sọ Western region the first in Africa. Gbogbo nǹkan tá a ṣe ní Western region first in Africa ni television first in Africa. The skyscraper tá a kọ́ Cocoa House was first in Nigeria. Bí hotel jẹ́ first in Africa. Àwọn alákọ̀ọ́kọ́ stadium, àwọn alákọ̀ọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ṣe industrial estates. Gbogbo all the development tó tẹ́ ọ̀làjú, gbogbo nǹkan ọ̀làjú Western region ló ti bẹ̀rẹ̀. Nítorí pé ìgbà yẹn a ní àǹfààní láti máa ṣe ìjọba wa gẹ́gẹ́ bí àwọn èèyàn wa ṣe, gẹ́gẹ́ bó ṣe máa tọ́, báwọn èèyàn wa ṣe fẹ́. Ẹ̀dẹ̀ rò pé ó dẹ̀ máa mú ìlọsíwájú bá àwọn èèyàn wa. Ìjọba àpapọ̀ ò di wa lọ́wọ́. Ṣùgbọ́n ìgbà táwọn ológun ti dé ni wọ́n ti da gbogbo ẹ̀rù, tí wọ́n ti pa gbogbo agbára táwọn region ń lò yẹn láti fi ṣètò ìjọba tiwọn. Ẹ̀yà kankan ọ̀dẹ̀ wa nẹ́tọ̀ mọ́ láti dá nǹkan kan ṣe. Ìyẹn gan ni ò jẹ́ kí Nàìjíríà ní ìlọsíwájú mọ́. Ìgbà tá à ń ṣe federalism yẹn kó tó 1966, a ò gbẹ̀yìn tàbá ò wá pẹ̀lú àwọn Singapore tàbí àwọn even India tàbí Malaysia, àjọ ń fagagbága ni nípa bá ṣe ń lọ síwájú, bá ṣe ń ní lọ síwájú. Ṣùgbọ́n lẹ́yìn tí a ti yọ oníjọba àpapọ̀ ní Àbújá tó yẹ pé ìjọba kan ṣúná ló wọ́n máa ṣe gbogbo nǹkan tó máa ṣe Nàìjíríà, wọ́n ti sọ wá dèrò ẹ̀yìn. Gbogbo àwọn tí mo dárúkọ pé àjọ ń fagagbága yẹn a ò tẹ̀ ìtumọ̀ wọn mọ́, a ò tẹ̀ lè rí tail light wọn mọ́, wọ́n ti fi wálẹ̀. Àwọn ti súnmọ́ àwọn advanced country bíi America, bíi China, bíi Russia. àwa ń tiwa ẹ̀yìn là ń lọ níṣẹ́ ká máa súnmọ́ ó máa jìnnà séèyàn ni sílẹ̀ wà àtúbọ̀ jìnnà séèyàn ni tá à ń súnmọ́ ẹranko so ìyẹn ò dẹ̀ dá so tá bá fẹ́ kí Nàìjíríà máa ní lọ síwájú àfi ká padà sí federalism ìyẹn ni ìtumọ̀ àtúntò ká padà sí federal government irú constitution tá a ní nígbà tá a gba òmìnira tí gbogbo region kọ̀ọ̀kan ní ẹ̀tọ́ láti máa ṣèjọba tiẹ̀ gbogbo nǹkan tá a lè fi ṣòwò ní western region là ń mú tá a fi ń ṣòwò a ò dúró de owó epo a ò dúró de owó láti federal government ká padà wá ẹ̀yà tó máa dàn kán nígi á tó máa padà wá a kì í ṣàgùtàn so a ti rí i pé àwọn pípù yìí wọn ò fẹ́ ṣàtúntò gbogbo bá ṣe ń pariwo àtúntò wọn ò fẹ́ ṣe wọ́n kàn ń dá wa lágun láni so táwọn tẹ̀ pariwo àtúntò títí tán ni wọn ò ní ṣe pé wọ́n fẹ́ sọ wá dẹrú wọn nílẹ̀ àwọn bàbá ti wá wọ́n fẹ́ sọ wá dẹrú so gbogbo wa ọ̀rọ̀ pé bóyá a fẹ́ wá Nàìjíríà èèyàn láti tún rò wọ́n Nàìjíríà yẹn kò pé wá ìgbà táwọn ọ̀dọ́ sọ pé àwọn fẹ́ Oòduà Republic ìyẹn làwọn ṣe lè sọ pé wọ́n ń sọ̀sọ̀kúsọ torí nǹkan táwọn pàpà ń sọ àgbàlagbà pàpà ń sòrò lọ́kàn àwa náà ń sọ báwo tẹ̀ pariwo ẹ̀ bí a ò ṣe demonstration bí a ò ṣe protest nǹkan tí wọ́n ń sọ gan-an ló wà lọ́kàn àwa náà. ìjọba ló kọjá àyè ìjọba ni ò ṣe dáadáa torí Sunday Igboho kò dídì dìde láti máa sọ pé òun máa ṣe jàgídíjàgan tàbí pé òun máa bá ìjọba jà gbogbo ẹ̀ ló ń pariwo bí àwọn jàǹdùkú tó wá láti north tó wá láti gbogbo oríṣiríṣi ibi tí mo sọ pé wọ́n ti wá yìí àwọn Fúlàní tó sọ pé wọ́n fẹ́ gbalẹ̀ wá lọ́wọ́ wa bí wọ́n ṣe ń pa wọ́n mo rò pé gangan city gangan town ni wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pa wọ́n nípakúpa wọ́n pa baálẹ̀ wọ́n ṣá wọn lọ́gbẹ́ wọ́n ṣe oríṣiríṣi ọ̀ṣẹ́ ń bẹ̀ yẹn fáwọn èèyàn ìjọba ò jẹ́ ṣe nǹkan kan láti join àwọn tó ń defend yẹn mo lè sọ pé gẹ́gẹ́ bí Afẹ́nifẹ́re ní lọ́ọ̀yà tó wà pẹ̀lú àwọn tó ń defend yẹn. ṣé minerals a ò ní ni ṣé àwọn minerals àbí àwọn ṣé kòkó la ò ní mọ́ ni ṣé bí ìgbà táwọn lọ́wọ́ wà bẹ̀ ṣe bí kòkó la fi ń ṣe owó kòkó palm kernels àwọn kan la fi ń ṣe owó nìyẹn àbí àmúyẹ̀wò irú lẹ̀ ń sọ tó bá dẹ̀ jẹ́ human resources àwa la kàwé jù àwa la mọ̀wé jù so a ní natural resources gbogbo minerals tó kù láti gbogbo mineral tí ò sí ní many countries ló wà nílẹ̀ wa a ní gold a ní iron epo pàápàá petroleum so kí ló kù tá ò ní we have all the mineral resources and we have the human resources so kí ló tó wá kù tá ò ní láti lè dá dúró gbogbo ẹ̀ dání. bó ṣe wà tẹ́lẹ̀ nìyẹn nígbà tá a ṣe ní federal constitution between 1960 and 1966 kó tó di pé àwọn àmì gba ìjọba ṣe pé ìgbà yẹn region kankan ló ní constitution tiẹ̀ bóyá wọn ò tí ì bí ẹ̀yìn gbà yẹn. Western region had a ní Supreme Court tiwa ní Western region a ní High Commission tiwa ní London which is equivalent to embassy a ní ambassador tiwa ní London so bó ṣe wà tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ nìyẹn àwọn tó fẹ́ máa gaba lé wa lórí ló da gbogbo ẹ̀rù tí wọ́n sọ di ìjọba kan ṣo iye ò kí ṣe regional government tọ́mátẹ̀ gba bèrè fún regional government ṣé bá ti lè ní regional government tẹ́lẹ̀ kí ló ràn pẹ̀lú regional government ṣebí under regional government ni mo sọ pé western region make progress under regional government ni eastern region make progress under regional government gan ni northern region make progress ìjọ tí ò ti sí regional government mọ́ ní gbogbo wa ti kò sí to make progress mọ́ nù wa. lórí ètò kájọ gbé pẹ̀lú rẹ̀ pọ̀ zero so kí la ti máa tún jọ́ọ̀jẹ̀ lórí ẹ̀ lórí ètò fairness equity justice zero wa mú yín pé kí ló dé tí ẹ fẹ́ dáàbò bora yín tẹ́ ẹ dúró de ìjọba bẹ́ẹ̀ ìjọba kò rẹ́dì láti dáàbò bò yín so àwọn èèyàn wọn ò tẹ ní choice ju pé kó máa dáàbò bora wọn lọ. ẹ má jẹ́ kán máa ṣe bí ọ̀dẹ̀ a gbọ́dọ̀ kàwé ká ponú tí ẹ bá kàwé ó yẹ kó lọ́gbọ́n ọgbọ́n kéèyàn lè mọ̀wé ọ̀tọ̀ ọgbọ́n inú ọ̀tọ̀ ẹ má lè kí Yorùbá máa hùwà bí ọ̀mùgọ̀ a ní constitution yóò dáa the fault is with the constitution ló fún Buhari ní gbogbo agbára tó ń lò against wa yìí. The constitution is against us. The constitution is fraudulent. Number one, it is not our constitution. Àwa kọ́ la ṣe àwọn àmì ló ṣe tán kàn enforce ẹ̀ lé wa lórí. Ó yẹ ká ṣe constitution tiwa. And torí pé àwọn àmì ló ṣe tán enforce ẹ̀ lé wa lórí, wọ́n ṣe lọ́nà tó jẹ́ pé àwọn Fúlàní ló gbé kò gbé wá. Gbogbo provision tó wà ní constitution yẹn àwọn Òkè Ọya ló gbé kò pè wá kò gbé wá rárá nílẹ̀ ní south. Tẹ́ bá ní kẹ́ ṣe òfin kan bí àwọn Òkè Ọya bá ṣe fẹ́ kó fi yẹn rí ló máa rí. Torí already wọ́n ti ṣe constitution lọ́nà tó jẹ́ pé àwọn náà ní majority ní National Assembly. So ìgbà tẹ́ bá máa ṣòfin National Assembly nǹkan tó wọ́n bá fẹ́ ló máa dòfin. Ẹ fẹ́ ẹ̀kọ́ bọ́ọ̀ bá ṣe fẹ́ ló ṣe máa dòfin. Ẹ̀yin kò máa lọ ọbẹ̀ ló máa ẹ̀kọ́ lọ kún náà tí nǹkan tẹ́ fẹ́ ò má tà nǹkan táwọn bá fẹ́ ló má tà ló máa dòfin. So ọ̀rọ̀ pé mo kìlọ̀ fún nìkan kọ́ mo kìlọ̀ fún gbogbo Yorùbá kì í ṣe ní 2015 nígbà tí wọ́n ṣe campaign election 2015 mo dìídì kó group kọjọ tá a bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí campaign pé ìbò fún Buhari. I took newspaper advertisements mo sì lè lọ get copy to advertisement mo ṣe sí Tribune full page advertisements tí mo ṣe sí Tribune sí Punch Jonathan ó pé wá ká dìbò fún Jonathan ju Buhari lọ nǹkan tẹ́mi sọ nìyẹn. Ṣé èèyàn láti sọ nǹkan kan àwọn gbogbo nǹkan tí APC sọ kán tó díjọba ẹ compare mọ́ nǹkan tó wà lẹ́yìn nísìnyí ṣé bí kí APC tó díjọba wọ́n ní sáwọn bá débẹ̀ àwọn máa ṣe miracles kò sí miracle tí wọn ò promise kan tó débẹ̀ àti pé kí ngbà yẹn ní 2015 yẹn ṣe òpin 2014 láti national conference Jonathan ló dẹ̀ convene national conference yẹn tó dẹ̀ lóun máa ṣe àtúntò táwa sọ pé a fẹ́ yìí Jonathan ti promise pé tóun bá tún padà débẹ̀ òun máa ṣe ó wà ní nǹkan tá a ṣe sọ pé ó bẹ́tà ká dìbò fún Jonathan tó ló ti promise pé àti ṣe national conference àti ṣe gbogbo àti kọ report àti gbé gbogbo ẹ̀ lé lọ́wọ́. Yes pé tó bá dé gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì o at least ó máa ṣe gbogbo Afẹ́nifẹ́re ni èmi gan pariwo ẹ̀ ju gbogbo èèyàn lọ torí gbà yín mo take advertisement lórúkọ mi tí mo fi sọ pé ẹ má dìbò fún Buhari. So reason tó fi yẹ ká dìbò fún Jonathan ni mo kàn ń sọ pé apart from the fact pé ó better ju Buhari lọ ó máa ṣe restructuring. Tó bá jẹ́ inú ẹgbẹ́ APC tàbí inú ẹgbẹ́ PDP mi ò lè dìbò fẹ́ni kankan nínú ẹgbẹ́ yẹn. ẹgbẹ́ Fúlàní làwọn ẹgbẹ́ méjèèjì. ẹgbẹ́ Fúlàní làwọn ẹgbẹ́ méjèèjì ẹni tí ò bá níṣẹ́ ti Fúlàní kò lè wọlé kò lè mú nínú ẹgbẹ́ méjèèjì yẹn. So wọ́n ìṣá tó máa lọ dìbò fọ́ta wa sẹ́ẹ̀ kan tèmi ń béèrè nìyẹn. Àfi kí tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ àwọn náà ń jalè jù bọ́n kankan ní gbogbo olùtọ́jà Nàìjíríà àwọn náà ń jà jù ṣùgbọ́n kankan ní fọ́ọ̀kàn wọn àwọn supporters Buhari àwọn supporters ẹ̀ bọ́n jí gbogbo Nàìjíríà gbé kankan ò ní ṣẹlẹ̀ kankan ò ní tìdí ẹ̀ ṣẹlẹ̀ nothing will happen. Dé wáyé pé wọ́n mú l'Amẹ́ríkà tí wọ́n fẹ́ fọ́ọ̀kàn bí o lè sọ bọ́ wọn máa fi fọ́ àwọn Amẹ́ríkà gan ti wá bí láti wá mú bóyá wọn máa fà á lé wọn lọ́wọ́.
látara àjọṣepọ̀ àwọn àti orílẹ̀-èdè Amẹ́ríkà.
àwọn ẹ̀mí ò lè sọ yẹn o torí àwọn tó ń ṣèjọba lé wa lórí wọn ò kíá o nǹkan tó ń kàn wọ́n ni nǹkan tó ń kàn sáà nípa ẹ̀. a ti sọ pé báwo ló ṣe máa ṣe ṣebí ká tó lè ṣẹ́gun ìwà ìbàjẹ́ ẹni tó wà lórí ẹni tó òkè ẹni tó wà lókè ló máa kọ́kọ́ sọ pé òkè òun ò fẹ́ ìwà ìbàjẹ́ mọ́ tó dẹ̀ máa á yẹ discipline á dùn àwọn tó bá ń ṣe ìwà ìbàjẹ́ ṣùgbọ́n tó bá jẹ́ àwọn èèyàn ẹ ló ń ṣe ìwà ìbàjẹ́ yìí kọ́ tó dẹ̀ fẹ́ fọwọ́ kan àwọn èèyàn tiẹ̀ tó dẹ̀ jẹ́ pé àwọn tó bá tẹ̀ ń ṣe ìwà ìbàjẹ́ gan-an tó kì í ṣe èèyàn tiẹ̀ tí wọ́n bá ń wá bíi tí wọ́n wá join anything is possible bí nàìjíríà ṣe ń lọ yìí nàìjíríà gan ti collapse kò kàn tí ìṣubú pátápátá ni. nǹkan tó fà á tí wọ́n tẹ̀lé ni wípé láti mo sọ mímú láti ẹgbà àkókò táwọn Awólọ́wọ̀ òun ni àwọn Fúlàní wọ́n ti gbà pé ìfà láti ìgbà tá a ti gba independence ok àkókò táwọn Awólọ́wọ̀ náà nìyẹn ní àwọn Fúlàní ti gbà pé ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà yìí ṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run ti sọ pé Ọlọ́run ti pèsè ẹ̀ fún àwọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí ilẹ̀ ìní tiwọn pé ilẹ̀ ìní Fúlàní ló máa jẹ́ pé Quran yẹn wọ́n máa gbé títí dé Èkó wọ́n máa sọ sí Atlantic Ocean ìtumọ̀ ẹ̀ ni wípé wọ́n máa sọ gbogbo Nàìjíríà di Muslim country wọ́n máa sọ di territory táwọn tó jẹ́ pé àwọn náà máa ṣèjọba lé lórí kò ní sí pé bóyá ẹnìkan kan àti middle belt ni o àti Yorùbá ni o kò ní sí òmìnira fún ẹnìkan kan nù wa àwọn náà máa ṣọ̀gá wọ́n ti sọ láti gbá yẹn náà dẹ̀ ti ń ṣọ̀gá bọ̀ gbogbo ìjà táwọn dẹ̀ ń jà pé kí àwa tó kù náà gbogbo ìjà táwọn ń jà wípé kí Nàìjíríà yìí kó jẹ́ bákan náà fún gbogbo wa ká ní opportunity kan náà kó jẹ́ pé tí wọ́n bá lè ṣọ̀gá kémi náà lè ṣọ̀gá ẹni tó bá mọ nǹkan jù ní ká jẹ́ kó ṣe ká jẹ́ kí fairness and equity kó wà Nàìjíríà wọn ò fẹ́ gbà yẹn àfi kó ṣàjà àwọn ṣáà náà máa ṣọ̀gá so gbogbo ilé yìí la rí ta rí pé a ò lè máa ṣe lọ báyìí títí kò tẹ̀ ṣe ká máa ṣe lọ báyìí títí gbogbo ìgbà táwọn Awólọ́wọ̀ contest election ló wọlé ṣùgbọ́n bí torí pé wọn ò fẹ́ kí Yorùbá ṣe president wọn á yí fígọ̀ yẹn látọ̀hún ni bó bá kù jẹ́ kọ́nà announce ẹ̀ báyìí wọn á yí wọn ní kò wọlé kíní wọn ní kò wọlé tó wá jẹ́ bàbàrà yẹn ni pé gbàtà Abíọ́lá June 12 1993 tí gbogbo wa rí tí wọ́n wá stop wọ́n ní Abíọ́lá ò lè ṣe president eléyìí fi hàn gbogbo ayé wípé ọ̀rọ̀ pé bóyá Abíọ́lá kò wọlé kò sínú ẹ̀ Abíọ́lá wọlé ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n kà wípé ìran Yorùbá kò pọ̀tẹ́ gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe president ìran tiwọn nìkan ló láti máa ṣe president a ò tí ì dé ọ̀dọ̀ Ọbásanjọ́ ńgbà yẹn ńgbà tá Abíọ́lá 1999 l'Ọbásanjọ́ ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ 1993 ni mo ṣe ń sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn tó ìgbà yẹn ìyẹn ló fa struggle nàdẹ́kò tá a jà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni máa kú tí wọ́n fẹ́ pa Yorùbá bẹ́ẹ̀ ni máa kú táwọn náà dẹ̀ jà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni máa kú ìgbà tí wọ́n rí pé Yorùbá ò gbà bọ̀rọ̀ pé bí wọ́n ṣe ń pa wá ní àsáǹjà ṣiṣá pé rárá a ò ní gbà ìyẹn ló ọgbà tó dẹ̀ yá Ọlọ́run dẹ̀ gbèjà wa ó má bàjá lọ ìyẹn ló jẹ́ kí wọ́n dẹwọ́lẹ̀ pé ókè o ṣe ẹlẹ́ máa ṣe àjẹkẹ́ ṣe síbẹ̀síbẹ̀ wọn ò jẹ́ ká ṣe náà torí ìgbà yẹn Ọbásanjọ́ wà lẹ́wọ̀n Fáláyé ni candidate wa wọ́n wá dìde lọ mú Ọbásanjọ́ jáde látẹ̀wọ̀n pé òun lọ́wọ́ máa support gbogbo aládẹ̀mọ̀ wípé Ọbásanjọ́ bí wọ́n ẹni tí tán bá ní kó ṣe l'Ọbásanjọ́ máa ṣe mi ò mọ̀ tí sìn yìí ó bọ̀ nígbà yẹn o àdúndẹ̀bà bóyá ó ti yí padà báyọ̀ àmọ́ o bọ̀ lákòókò yẹn nígbà yẹn torí ìgbà tó ṣe ìjọba lórí under the military tó wọn àti Yar'Adua lẹ́yìn tí Murtala kú tó di head of state tí Yar'Adua jẹ́ gbákejì ẹ̀ kò sí Yorùbá kan tó lè fún un advice a ní kí Yar'Adua máa bọ̀ kó wá gbọ́ nǹkan tó ń sọ nígbà yẹn so gbogbo nǹkan tí àwọn Fúlàní ń fẹ́ ni Ọbásanjọ́ bá wọn fẹ́ tí tó fi kúrò ń bẹ̀ so ìyẹn náà fi gbà pé káà fi Ọbásanjọ́ ṣe president ó pé wọn so ìyẹn náà ṣe lọ mú kúrò ní ẹ̀wọ̀n tó fi ṣe president àwa gọ́ngbà yẹn a ò fẹ́ ṣe election nítorí a ní ká ṣe àtúntò ká tó lọ ṣe election ká ṣe àtúntò ká kọ constitution míì ká tó lọ ṣe election ibi táwa dúró sí nìyẹn ṣùgbọ́n Abdulsalam Abubakar ó sábẹ̀ wá títí pé táwa ti dé ìjọba o first number one tá a máa ṣe òun ni pé a máa ṣàtúntò ṣùgbọ́n kásájọ ọmọ ò fẹ́ pẹ́ níjọba kájọ kájẹ́ kó máa lọ ká tètè ká lọ ṣe election kọ́ má jẹ́ sọ pé a ṣe àṣejù nígbà tó yẹ pé gbogbo transition tí Abacha ti ń ṣe bọ̀ ó cancel ẹ̀ ó ní ká ṣe election míì which is nǹkan táwọn fẹ́ nìyẹn kó má jẹ́ pé ajá aláṣejù ló jẹ́ ká lọ ṣe election yẹn nígbà tó yẹ ti sọ pé àtúntò Ọbásanjọ́ ò gbọ́ nǹkan kò tẹ̀ fẹ́ gbọ́ nǹkan pa ẹ̀. So ìyẹn ni mo ṣe ń sọ pé a ti pariwo àtúntò títí ó ti sún wariwo àtúntò nísìnyí torí up to 2019 pàápàá àtúntò la ṣe ń pariwo ẹ̀ restructuring àbí bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ up to election tó kọjá yìí àtúntò la ṣe ń pariwo ẹ̀ a pariwo àtúntò títí conference tẹ́lẹ̀ a ṣe ní 2014 gbogbo nǹkan tá àbáta gbé jáde Buhari ló wò tẹ̀ fẹ́ rí ó lóun wá gbé sí archive ẹ mọ ibi tó ń pè ní archive níbi tí wọ́n gbé nǹkan àtijọ́ tí wọ́n tẹ̀ fẹ́ rí tí ò wúlò mọ́ tí wọ́n ń gbé sí ó ní archive ló máa gbé gbogbo report wá sí nǹkan tó lè ṣe náà nìyẹn kò tẹ̀ ó lóun ò tẹ̀ ká ó lóun ò fẹ́ gbọ́ nǹkan tó ń jẹ́ restructuring gbogbo ìwà tó dẹ̀ ń hù láti ìgbà tó ti débẹ̀ ó fi hàn pé kò fẹ́ gbọ́ nǹkan tó ń jẹ́ restructuring so ìyẹn ló jẹ́ kí restructuring yìí ṣe ó ti sú èèyàn ó ti sú àwa pàápàá. Sorry bí constitution bá ṣe ní agbára tí constitution bá fún èèyàn lèèyàn máa lò ní gbogbo ibi tí wọ́n ti ń lo presidential constitution vice president ò lágbára kankan agbára tí president bá fún pé kó lò ló máa lò kò sí agbára tó jẹ́ tiẹ̀ even ní American constitution tá a copy ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ní wa ta ló mọ wọ́n sọ wá ti swear in president America ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ tẹ morúkọ vice president ta ló morúkọ vice president Trump president lè máa gbọ́ so under constitution rule ti a copy president for vice president ò lágbára tiẹ̀ iṣẹ́ tí president bá fẹ́ ló lè ràn so president tó jẹ́ yẹ pé àwọn tó ń ṣiṣẹ́ fún àwọn èèyàn tiẹ̀ àwọn Fúlàní èèyàn tiẹ̀ ló ń ṣiṣẹ́ fún tó fẹ́ kí wọ́n wá occupy Nàìjíríà wọ́n sì kàn sọ Nàìjíríà dìlú wọn so kí ni vice president máa ṣe lórí yẹn kò sí nǹkan tó lè ṣe ju pé kan ní kó máa lọ pínwó fún wọn lọ́jà ó dẹ̀ pínwó fún wọn lọ́jà àbí ìgbà tó bá yá tẹ́bí bá pa àwọn èèyàn àwọn ọlọ́wọ́ ti sọ kó tó kú o ó nígbà tó bá yá àwọn èèyàn gan á dìde wá gbàrà wọn mọ nǹkan tó ń lọ lò nísìn àbí gbé kálẹ̀ èèyàn di tí o ó mọ nǹkan tó ń lọ lò nísìn ìgbà tó bá yá wá gbàrà wọn lẹ̀ ṣebí election tó ń bọ̀ táwọn èèyàn bá kúkú ponú tó bá kúkú ponú dáadáa tí wọ́n ponú pátápátá wọ́n á tún lọ dìbò fáwọn ọ̀tá wọn.
We have come again to address by people who certainly know the truth. They are trying to put the tag of secession and the treason that goes with secession on the self-determination push being driven by the indigenous, Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. What is going on is that what the indigenous nationalities have done is in writing, a proclamation that details all of what their complaints and grievances are and what propositions they have put forward in form of those demands and what has to be done in form of the November of 2018 open memo. Everything they say should be done or was the problem is in writing. And so if without looking at it, you begin to say it is secession from what? There's no Nigeria from which anybody will have to secede now. Again, back to our map. What we're dealing with is a situation in which the 12 contiguous states of the far north, the one in yellow that adopted Sharia, in the face of the provision of Section 10 of the already disputed Constitution. And if I may, let me actually read out that Section 10 so that people can understand what happened with the secession, what happened with these 12 contiguous states that simultaneously imposed Sharia in year 2000. Simultaneous, contiguous. Section 10 of the fraudulent Constitution admits to some of the truths. It reads, the government of the Federation of a state shall not adopt any religion as state religion, full stop. That's all. I repeat, the government of the Federation or of a state shall not adopt any religion as state religion. This is the provision in this constitution that makes Nigeria a secular state. So for these 12 states to act simultaneously in the manner they did in year 2000, being contiguous, it means each of the houses of assembly passing the laws, and then the governor signing it into law, and then setting up Hizbah, the Sharia police. That's the only section of the country that has seceded from the secular union of Nigeria. But the rest of us in this alliance looked at it because they went into due process. We interpreted what they did and come back on a conquest mission. That's what they're doing now. And it is in response to all of that that the rest of Nigeria went on to also step into their own right to set the nation, since the constitution that brings everybody together is a forgery. It's been repudiated in every democratic way. And so the mischief of wanting to target secession, is just it's marks of illiteracy, and it's disgraceful that people who are lawyers, people who are supposed to know, some of people who have a PhD, some even say it's treason. Treason, the only treason on the table right now is the treason of holding on to a forgery, a forged instrument. We did not make this constitution. The people who are standing on it to operate the Union of Nigeria, they know that it is a forgery and a fraud. We went to court in 2007 to place it before the court to say, from the account of the author, Absalom Abubakar, and the preamble that claims that we went into a meeting, that we, meaning the sovereign constituent components. That is what it means, that we the people. And so, Decree number 24 of 1999, which tells the story of how the Constitution came about, from the author himself, to issues being raised about the Constitution and how it came, that everything can be resolved by amendment. What are you amending? We are saying we never made a Constitution. Is it not easier to put aside the forgery and go and discuss to form a union and process it to become constitutional if we all agree? What are you running away from? This sovereignty dispute has been on the table since 1967. Yadudu goes to TV because he was the one that processed the back end of what became the 1999 Constitution, to say that the amendment provisions in the Constitution is enough to change it even entirely, to bring about a new Constitution. Why do I have to go through the hurdle of coming before the assembly constituted from 36 states that were imposed by brigandage? Who am I going to meet in the place? Who taught Yadudu that jurisprudence in which our sovereignty should now be in the hands of the National Assembly? Where did he learn that from? And he has been teaching generations of people who have become senior advocates and professors themselves, some of them are in the Senate. Yadudu is illiterate on this subject matter. He doesn't know anything on the jurisprudence of constitution making. That's why he's talking about National Assembly as the place, as the venue for going to discuss our sovereignty. And so we come back to the question of who is committing treason. It is the people who are swearing to defend and uphold this fraud that are committing treason against the rest of us. because they're the ones hijacking our sovereignty, selling 3 million barrels of crude oil every day and sharing the money over the heads of the owners, sending army and police to go and kill people all over the place with international terrorists, the collusion between the government, the illicit federal government, because we can't have a federal government if we're not a federation. We ceased to be a federation in 1966. So when we say illicit federal government, it's not about the Buhari that is in government house today. We're saying that the Federation of Nigeria died in 1966. The carcass was hijacked by a small section of the country that is still imposing itself on the rest of Nigeria. They managed to impose a constitution that we didn't discuss. And they put our signature. They have the temerity to put our signature to that constitution, to say, oh, we made it. And we've tolerated it for 21 years. And people who are supposed to be rallying around the peaceful propositions of how to address the issue are still going around running their mouth, talking nonsense. So what is being pursued now by NINAS, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, is actually self-determination. That is what it's called. And it's an inalienable right. What the fundamental human right is to the individual is what this self-determination right is to the community. The community in the sense of, if you're a distinct ethnic nation, if you're a distinct distinct people in your ancestral space, that right accrues to you and is not dependent on anybody agreeing with you. By the UN instrument governing the situation, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples that came in 2007, I happen to have been directly involved in how it came. Professor Soyinka, became the medium by which we were able to reach Kofi Annan. And somehow that instrument, emerged. That instrument says, in essence, if you are a distinct nationality in your ancestors, you're entitled to be, because the UN found out that all the wars they were trying to separate over the years came from ethnic domination in one form or the other. If it's not the Nazis that will declare themselves superior and begin to kill others, it will be the Tutsi and the Hutu, or the Fulani, as we have seen in Nigeria, or the Boers, as we saw in South Africa. So the solution they have found is to now say, by that United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, that if you are a distinct nationality on your ancestral space, if you are Scot in Scotland, if you are Catalan in Catalonia, if you are Corsican in Corsica or France, if you are Ijo in Ijoland, if you are Yoruba in Yoruba land, you are entitled to be there by yourself. It doesn't matter how Lugard came in 1914 and how you became Nigeria. All of that, everything is now subject to that right to self-determination. And so it is the exercise of that right that these indigenous nationalities are doing, because the Constitution of Nigeria of 1999 was done in defiance of, in negation of our right to self-determination. And if anybody doesn't understand that, again, I refer the person to section 14.2a of this same illicit constitution that admitted that sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority, meaning that only the people in exercise of their sovereignty can make an instrument that will confer power and authority. What we have going on in Nigeria today, so that nobody will say they were not told, is that the illicit federal government of Nigeria is now hanging on to this forgery as a source of power and authority. And the owners of the sovereignty have organized themselves in these formations we have seen to step forward, to say, we've endured it for 21 years and no more. These assemblies, we saw it in Port Harcourt in 2015, we saw it in Ibadan in 2017, 7th of September at Adama Simba Stadium. We saw it in Makurdi on the July 18th of 2018. So the nationalities spread across this south and middle belt have done everything democratically possible to tell everybody that they can't continue to live under the bondage of this instrument of death that seized all their assets and now opened them up. You saw when our borders were thrown up open by people who are bringing people of their own stock, the Fulani, to come and become the new owners of Nigeria, eliminating the owners of the land. And we all pretend we do not. So the issue is a sovereignty dispute, and the Union of Nigeria, as defined by this constitution, is at an end for these indigenous nationalities. They have not taken unilateral actions. They have raised their grievances and placed on the table for discussions. They have offered together a transitioning. Let those in government house, whether it's president and federal or governors and all the other people, remain in office in the period that this apartheid constitution of Nigeria is taken out peacefully. But if they think they have become the new owners of our sovereignty, they are going to have to contend with their people, the people in whose name they've been going forward to become president and governor and senator. It's just going to become matter on the street. We are the only statesmen, we are the only peacemakers left, inviting everybody to come so that the matter doesn't resolve itself on the street. So when characters like Yadudu, who was central to, he was Abacha's chief legal advisor, who had been possessing something that would keep Abacha for life, and then Absalom Abubakar retained him. And he still does not realize he has caused enough damage. He has the temerity to go to national TV to say that National Assembly is the one that will now decide our sovereignty. Let him go and look for how to learn. The mediocrity they impose on us is costing too much blood already. Let Yadudu go and look for who will teach him the jurisprudence of constitution making. And all these other senior advocates and professors that are talking trash all over the place. Ruben Abati says treason. Treason from who? By who? Who taught him that kind of law? And so we come, this matter is only a matter of the degree of autonomy. The people talking about restructuring, the people talking about Odua Republic, the people talking about Biafra Republic, the people talking about resource control, they are all expressing constitutional grievances. We have framed it all into questions that can be answered under a roof, around a table, for everybody, to the satisfaction of everybody. We either go to do that now that we can, or those who are being killed and who have the inalienable right to exercise their right to self-determination will go unilateral. Some of them are armed, and we're saying to them, it hasn't come to armed engagement. We have a remedy, self-determination. The processes are almost 80-90% done. We can come to the end of it by referendums. It is by referendum that you decide. The Ruben Abati that was talking about or the governor in Ondo that was talking about, Professor Akintoye as an unknown quantity. Can you imagine the level of lunacy we're talking about? That people will gather and make this, people who are under the threat, existential threat. We're talking about death here. The assets have been taken. Everything has been, every other thing that they will wish to have as human beings have been desecrated. And then they come to say, let us do it this way, so it doesn't end in fiasco. Then you come and say, who are you? Let it go to referendum. This is the kind of thing that the whole solution to the problem is referendum. You can't say because you are one governor in one country, were you elected to come and become the owner of the sovereignty of the people? When you can't license one rifle to defend them from people who are killing them in your face. But when they organize, you now begin to run your mouth against them. Let our elected officials, the 30 days we give to them is running. Once it's done, just like we gave the federal government 90 days, and they refuse to turn up, the 30 days we gave the elected officials from this alliance territory, including that governor in Ondo, including the other governors, is running out. By the time it runs out, of course, we thereafter. I would think we just have to pull ourselves away from this nasty talk of secession and separatism. It is called self-determination. If we prefer to play pranks and mischief while the house is on fire, the populace is watching. And by the time they come to knock at the door of those who are doing that mischief. They won't find people like me there to come and ask them to take it easy. Their lives are at stake. This is not the time to play any politics. Next appearances. That looking at this map, there's this map below. I don't know whether we see this map clearly. This map we see in the background. This map we see in the background is one that tells half of the story we're trying to tell now. Some may be looking at it as allegation. No, we've moved from suspicion of inability to unwillingness. And if you probe that unwillingness to act further, you will begin to see what Danjuma called it, collaboration at the level of collusion, involving the president directly. And I've had the privilege of saying this on the floor of Congress in Capitol Hill, both in the House and in the Senate and at the State Department, when the US began to worry about the presence of ISIS in our space. And we had to go there to share with them what we knew, what we could see, what we could touch. On the side of the Constitution that...
How long does it usually take you to discover a backlink? Try the fastest...
While I was talking about the contention of this alliance of the South and Middle Belt, which is now being placed before the UN Security Council and the global community in a formal communication that was put in public space on the 16th of December in 2020. Our contention is that we have not made a constitution. Buhari should please take note of section 14.2a of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 that tells how the constitution is made. At least it's admitted, as faulty as it is. It says sovereignty belongs from whom the universal truism. We are saying that we have not made a constitution. So all of those who are pointing all of us towards a National Assembly in Abuja to go and adjust whatever we want to adjust it, our answer to them is that they can continue in their mischief. Our sovereignty is with us. It's not dependent on whether they agree with us or they don't. They have power right now, but I can tell you they have no authority. They've lost authority a long time ago. The authority they had was out of the ignorance of the people who didn't know that their sovereignty belonged to them. And gradually, over the last 21 years, right from that 1999, we've managed to explain to everybody that their sovereignty belongs to them according to that admission in section 14.2a. And you go back to the preamble of the Constitution that says that we, the people, have solemnly resolved to live in unity as one indivisible country, and also that we therefore make and give unto ourselves the following Constitution. Those are two false claims. And everything else we complain about arises from those two false claims. We have 68 items on the exclusive list in that Constitution that puts everything that should belong to us on account of our sovereignty in the hands of the illicit federal government that emerged from the point our federation collapsed in 1966. We had a federation in which the four regions had their constitutions. We agreed to be one country because we were going to be a federation. And it was Ahmadu Bello that listed the 8 demands that defined the depth of autonomy that would be acceptable to the federating units. When in 1953, the motion for independence, Nohoro moved, was defeated by the Northern delegation, it was the same Ahmadu Bello that said, look, the North cannot go along in all of these if we don't have X, Y, Z, 8 items. And it took from that 53 to 59 for all those things to be put in place. So in being in one political union was on account of that depth of autonomy in which our assets belonged to us and we contributed to the center. And the whole number of things that government do was in our hand to do. We've moved away from 1966 from that position to where
everything, 68 items on exclusive list. The guns in the land are now in the hands of that illicit federal government that has been taken over by the Fulani. We make no pretenses around it. Others can do so, but those who are suffering from the brigandage of the Fulani, and it was not by accident that the Global Terror Index will call the herdsmen, Fulani herdsmen, the fourth most deadly terrorist organization in the world. And here we have a president who was a sympathizer, a known sympathizer of Boko Haram. Here we have a president who in his campaign leading to 2015 was so openly associated with Boko Haram that they were prepared to nominate him to represent them in Saudi Arabia when president, who is still the life patron of, grand patron of Miyetti Allah, that has been claiming responsibility, in fact, proudly taking responsibility for the activities of this same Fulani herdsmen who are causing havoc all over the place. And we have the same president dipping hands into the treasury and taking 100 billion naira to give to Miyetti Allah. We saw his answer to the governor in Benue when he came to complain that this matter should be going. Because we may all continue to pretend, but I tell you, the owners of the sovereignty that has been hijacked and confiscated by a Nigeria that does not exist, are not going to wait forever. We have placed a plan on the table by which you can engage the matter under the roof. People are facing death from people they can see. The government that is supposed to be taking care is pretending it's not happening, but it's human beings that are being killed. And instead of engaging it, they are going around pointing guns at everybody and making stupid debates and arguments about a constitution. The mandate of the National Assembly, Boala, take note, the legislative mandate of the National Assembly does not extend to constitution making. They are elected to make law within the provisions of constitution. Our contention is that we have not made any constitution. We are tolerating the one that is there now for the purpose of peace and to avoid anarchy. And if we refuse to go to deal with this matter, the East is boiling. The Niger Delta is upside down. You heard what Avengers said the other day. Yoruba land is upside down. The whole world is being told. And the Middle Belt is where, it's like it's become a death epidemic. So if 3/4 of the country, if Nigeria has become such a liability, such a sure source of death, I can assure whoever is listening that the owners of the sovereignty that is confiscated by Decree number 24 of 1999 and under the pretense that we submitted our sovereignty are going to take steps. They're already taking steps.
Sorry, Tony, may I quickly interject here? If we bring it down to the conversation, to the topic here, there is one thing Boala said. He said that there is no region in Nigeria that does not experience insecurity. Now, bearing that in mind that every single region here in his argument experiences insecurity.
Yes.
The question then will be, what will be, if you might do that in 2 minutes, please, what is the solution to this?
If you want to solve the problem, the first thing you do is to identify the nature of the problem so you can know exactly what they're trying to solve. In all these parts where they say there's insecurity, oh yes, we agree. But who is doing the insecurity? It is the same Fulani killing in Ijo land, killing in Igbo land, killing in Tiv land, killing in Yoruba land, killing everywhere. And so, if that is the nature of the insecurity, and the guns by which those who are being killed are supposed to defend themselves are confiscated by that illicit constitution operated by the illicit federal government against them, what we should be looking towards is how much more can people, they have endured confiscation of assets. The assets of Niger Delta, oil and gas is seized by that constitution. The ports of Lagos and all of the things that belong to everybody else, the bitumen in Benue seized by that constitution. Now, are we being invited to endure death? These same 12 states that embrace Sharia, that imposed Sharia simultaneously in year 2000, they are contiguous, and they acted simultaneously in year 2000, in defiance of Section 10 of the Constitution as faulty as it is, that says there shall be no state religion. Our interpretation of their action is that they have seceded from the secular union we agreed to be, because we agreed to be a federation and a secular union, and it's in black and white in the constitution. And they not only imposed Sharia, they brought in Hizbah, and their House of Assembly was involved, their governors were involved. So we interpret it further to mean that seceded from the secular, seceded from a secular union, and they have exercised their right to self-determination. What the rest of the country is doing now, and there's nothing else is of interest to the rest of the country. That Nigeria that they are building on the foundation of falsehood and forgery of 1999 Constitution is not our project. If they want us to discuss the project we agreed to be in, the Federation and the Secular Union, we can go to that while the time lasts. But if they insist that they've conquered everybody and they're talking trash all around, pointing us to National Assembly that now is made up of, we have 36 states that are.
This entrepreneur brand logo was done by a top freelancer on Fiverr is simply
have been created out of this by fiat, out of this 4 regions. And 1 region of the 4 is now in control of 19 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Count the 3 senators for each and see all of where we land. Unfortunately for them, they were hoping. And this should also go to Yadudu. I'm sure he's going to hear this. Yadudu was thinking that the National Assembly will be where the matter will be resolved. But he will learn jurisprudence on the streets when he gets to find out that the National Assembly has no role in the matter that is at hand. It is sovereignty of the people that has to be resolved. And a meeting, not the type they've been calling before. Those who have to hold the meeting that will produce constitution are the constituent companies that will be countries of their own if Nigeria was not occupying their space. That is the jurisprudence of the situation. And there's no other solution that is going to apply. Those who are being shot at on account of this forged constitution are sooner than later going to do what they've endured the insults from people who are, look at this petroleum industry bill and what has come out of it. People are contributing to complain of something. And now you tell us that because pipelines run through your land, you have become oil producing. And you take 30%, and give communities that are suffering the environmental degradation of it all for decades. You give them 3%, and you are just insulting people all over the place. Nigeria, defined by 1999 Constitution, is no longer a project. Nigeria, defined by 1999 Constitution, has become a liability we can no longer carry. And we have placed a plan on the table for how we can engage the matter in 2 stages. Let us accept we have not made a constitution. Let us call those whose sovereignties have been confiscated by the pretense of that preamble. It is that preamble that we're talking about. There's no other thing we are interested in reviewing or reworking or discussing. It is that preamble that lied that we have made a constitution, meaning we have not submitted our sovereignty. People are sitting on it on account of brigandage. And since our lives will now be required of us, because those who embrace Sharia also owe it a duty of faith to kill the rest they call infidels. And as feudalists, they think that democracy is an insult on them, that we are slaves and they are the masters. Those 2 have made the union as currently defined by that constitution impossible. And I can assure us, no matter how many guns anybody is pointing at anybody, the owners of the sovereignty, Yoruba will be a country of 60 million people. The lower Niger, that is south and southeast put together will be a country of 70 million people. The middle belt will be a country of more than 45 million people. If the 3 are saying, let us go and discuss, and you sit in one corner pointing guns at them as your only response, I tell you, there is this far, no further.
Tony, thank you very much for intervention. But please, now, yes. I want you to quickly, in 1 minute, Bola, I think before you joined us, Bola made a case when I asked, when we discussed the issue of Sunday Igboho,
yes.
He said that, the reason why I'm asking you this question as well, yes. to pick your brain, because yes. also you are a lawyer, like Bola yes. here. He said, and he quoted the Administration of Justice Act 148 subsection 2. Now I'm sounding like a lawyer. I wrote it down, by the way. If not, people will think I've got everything off heart. Anyway, so that he's saying that the state in this case, or rather the law enforcement agents, have the right 2, the moment they have the search warrant and warrant of arrest, that is executable at any point in time, irrespective of the point at the time of the day or night.
Yes.
So that they can do that.
Subject of dispute. We say the document is a forgery, and the laws that are based on them on that constitution are now in dispute. So if I'm talking about how you come to my space in the first place, which is what the constitution settles in that claim that we have agreed. If we're saying no.
Hi, I'm Emily from the Oribi team, and I'm here to show you how to drive better marketing.
We never met, we never agreed, and you hang on to your position because you have all the guns, appropriated by that constitution to you. Well, you can go about thinking it's question of law and order and enforcement. Those who are the receiving end, for which reason they are doing what they are doing, and you can be sure I'm not speaking to this matter from afar. I'm speaking to it as one who is directly involved in what led to in the Niger Delta end of it, in the Biafra side of it, in the Yoruba side of it, in terms of eyeball to eyeball with all the sides. Then the international stakeholders, the ones who are in a war with an ISIS that came in 2014 and joined forces with Boko Haram to become ISWAP. The US and its allies already have a 67, alliance of countries that will have to hold hands to see to it that madness is brought to an end. And so I'm least interested in the law of how police can move or how they cannot move. The issues being raised are not questions that law and order, enforcement procedure apply to. Let us accept we have a problem and call a meeting of all. The eastern side is upside down. You saw the arrest and the arrest of. Has it not come to where we have to acknowledge that the whole country cannot be boiling and we pretend that nothing is happening because we confiscate the guns in the land by a forgery we call the Constitution of 1999. There must be an end to all of this.
So thank you very much, Mr. Tunde. I mean, your argument is very well noted that ab initio that there is no constitution made by the people. Obviously, the preamble, which you've re-emphasized again as the main basis of, even if at all, that the conversation which confers that legitimacy by the people is thereby missing. I mean,
the nationalities are simply saying they have not submitted their lands and their people into this union. Until that question is taken, all the other issues are a distraction to everybody. And those who are at the receiving end are not going to wait because their right to self-determination is inalienable. They are going to exercise it. It may be difficult, it may be tough, but you know what? The only alternative is to wait and be killed by people who are already rampaging towards them, and then the government is pretending that nothing is going on.
That's fine. Thank you very much. So we will be rounding up now. I see Professor Olufemilade is raising up his hand. Prof, I would come back to you if either you for your intervention.
Wọ́n pariwo kárakára, wọ́n fẹ́ Olúwo, wọ́n ló dẹ̀ tún wà wọ́n yéye, tó bá bọ́ sì tán.